Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 220, and for this one we're playing two sessions, one at Bellagio and then one at Aria. The hands get progressively crazier and crazier as the night goes on, so it's a long episode because there are so many of those and a lot of other interesting things that happen. Be sure to stick around throughout the entire thing. But before we get started, a couple of announcements to make. The first one is that I'm going out to the WPT at Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Tampa, Florida. I'll be out there from August 29th through September 5th. We're doing a meetup game September 1st. And during the meetup game, we're gonna give away 3 seats to the $3,500 main event. And then we're also giving away a cabin, to the WPT cruise that's taking place November 11th through November 16th. So that's leaving from Florida, and Andrew and I are both gonna be on the cruise. Very excited about that. I'll have more information in the description box below. I'll put a link down there, but it's a very exclusive cruise. There's a limited space, so if you're interested in taking that trip with Andrew and I, we're gonna do a meetup game on the cruise, and we're gonna be playing cash games and tournaments. So be sure to book that as soon as possible. And then if you sign up to ClubWPT.com using the promo code BRAD22, you're gonna get a free month on ClubWPT, and you're gonna have a chance to win this $12,000 WPT World Championship package at Wynn Las Vegas. That's gonna be very, very cool. I have more information in the description box below with a link to that as well. And one final thing is that we're doing a meetup game September 6th at the Lodge to kind of kick off our Fall Mayhem series. So buy-ins of various different amounts. I'll have a link to that schedule as well. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're back in Las Vegas for a nighttime session at Bellagio. The room is busy. I'm feeling good. Andrew Nemi's also in the house playing. I get called for 510 and buy in for 1500. That's the max. We begin the session at 10:09 p.m. in a shorthanded must-move game. We don't even have time to get situated because the very first hand, we're getting involved from the cutoff. We've got pocket eights and raised at 30. The button is potentially from the O'Doyle family. He tries to bully us with a 3-bet to 100. I've got a feeling that his whole stack is going down. I call for 70 more. We're heads up, out of position. The flop comes King 7-3 with 2 diamonds. I check. The button throws a dodgeball at a small child walking by the poker room and then makes a tiny bet of 55. Coincidentally, that's the exact price that I'm willing to pay. I call. The turn is the 6 of hearts. I check. This time the button checks back. Perhaps 8s are best. The river is the 5 of spades, putting 4 to the straight out there. I check. The opponent checks back. We turn over the pocket 8s. It's good enough to win it. The opponent returns his cards face down. It isn't a huge pot, but it feels much better to win the first hand of the night and be up $170 rather than immediately get stuck. The very next hand we pick up pocket jiggities. We're in the cutoff again because some players have gotten switched to the main game and the button stayed where it was. I raised to 30. The same opponent from the last hand says, O'Doyle rules, then puts in a 3-bet to 100 from the button one more time. He's literally 3-bet me 100% of the hands that I've been dealt today. The way I see it, I have 2 options. But unfortunately, I don't have a banana peel on me, so I'm forced to go with option number 2, which is a 4-bet to 400. We might be getting it all in the second hand of the session. Instead, the opponent backs down with a fold. We played about 4 minutes and are already up a few $100. Nice way to begin the night. We get switched to the main game where we pick up pocket aces on the button. I raised to 30. The big blind makes the call. We're heads up in position. The flop comes 10-4 deuce with 2 spades. We've got an overpair and some backdoor draws. The big blind checks. This is a spot that I've gone over with Nick Petrangelo, where on these types of boards you can bet pot or more with your whole range, since I'll have all the strong combinations including sets and overpairs like aces. The big blind won't have any overpairs and may not even have pocket 10s. I bet 60. My plan is to fire big all 3 streets for most runouts since I'm close to the top of my range. The big blind calls. If he just has a 10, he's going to be in big trouble. The turn is the 3 of clubs. It's not very concerning because the opponent would have had to have called a big flop bet with a gutter to improve to a straight, plus we have removal to ace-5 holdings. The big blind checks. We pick up a straight draw to go along with the best pair possible. I stick with the plan to bet big. I make it 200. In the past, I used to always be afraid that someone would have the nuts against me, and that kept me from going for value in certain spots or betting larger amounts when I should have. I wish I still had that fear because the big blind puts in the check raise to 730. I've screwed myself. If I call here, I only have 860 behind. I've got the ace of spades, making it less likely that the opponent is semi-bluffing with a flush draw or a combo draw. Did he flop a set, or somehow drill it on me with 6-5? Is he bluffing me with pocket fives or something like king 5 of spades? Can I fold aces in this spot? I can't. I call for 530 more to see what the opponent wants to do on the river. Sometimes people respond in strange ways when you bet large. It's very possible the aces are the best hand. The river is the 9 of spades, completing the flush draw. This causes the opponent to slam on the brakes. He checks. We have the nut blocker and could potentially turn our hand into a bluff. The main issue with that is that we can only jam for 860, which is about half the size of the pot. I'm not sure how many better hands we could get to fold. We also have tons of value with aces. We don't necessarily need to turn it into a bluff. I check back. The opponent shows that he turned the nuts with 6-5 offsuit and no spade in his hand. It's a brutal turn card for us. Just one of 4 that gives the opponent the lead, and one of only 3 that has us drawing dead. That one hurts. After adding on for 600 more, we pick up queen jack of clubs in the cutoff. Under the gun +1 limps in for 10. I raise to 40 to isolate him. Mr. 6-5 offsuit is in the small blind. He 3-bets to 120. It's only been 13 minutes since the ace's hand. That's the exact amount of time that I've been envisioning myself getting revenge. Under the gun +1 folds. He knows that this battle is between me and the small blind. It's a small 3-bet that we're facing. I'm thankful for that because I would have called significantly larger sizes. Out of curiosity, do you know what the minimum odds you need to call an opponent's 3-bet who just beat you in a big pot is? That's right. The correct answer is 1-1 when you're out for revenge. We're actually getting over 1-1, so we make the easy call for 80 more. The flop comes 9-3 deuce with 2 spades and a club. We've got 2 overs and the backdoor straight flush draw. The opponent chooses to go larger here with a bet of 170. I contemplate folding. There are just so many cards that can help us out on the turn, and so many Bradley dollars in the stack that we've got to get back to us. I call one time to see if we can drill the 10 of clubs. The dealer puts out the 9 of spades instead. It might be a good card for us as the small blind slows down and checks. Okay, we've got an opportunity to pull off a heist at Bellagio. Anytime a situation like this comes up at one of Terry Benedict's casinos, I start a group chat with the experts. George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and Matt Damon advise me to rep the full house, flush, or trip 9s. Great advice. I bet 230. This sizing makes it look like I'm lonely, waiting by a phone on a Friday night, and just trying to get called. Really, I'm just trying to get folds out of the opponent's ace-high hands. That's why I didn't have to bet too large. There's no reason to bet piles when you can accomplish the same goal by risking less. 40 seconds of tanking goes by, then the opponent finally folds. A pot 1 with nothing is 5 times sweeter than a pot 1 with the nuts, and 100 times sweeter when it's against someone who needs to return your money to you. Like Spraggy does after borrowing $4,000 from me during this past WSOP. We're still not completely unstuck, but we're only down 300. At this time, Andrew ends a session and invites viewers to join him at a bar on property called Petrosian. I take a break from poker to say hi. It's a cool spot to enjoy a drink while listening to some piano. A viewer named Grant comes by. I'm getting a shot for the vlog, so I tell Andrew,
just go ahead and act normal.
Andrew may have seen the movie Hangover too many times. His version of normal in Las Vegas is to sprinkle some roofies into my drink. By the time I wake up several days later, Bellagio has picked up my stack where I retrieve it from the cage. Rather than wait on the list to get back into the 5-10 game, I booked the $310 loss and cash out. But the night is only just beginning. I head over to Aria around 1 a.m. where we'll play a session like never before. There's no 5-10 running at the moment. I get called for 2-5. After buying in for 1,000, which is the max for this table, I take my seat with my intention set on at least recouping the 300 I lost earlier at Bellagio. 3 hands into the new session, we pick out pocket queens in the big blind. Under the gun +1 has a massive stack. He opens a 50. It's a huge sizing of 10 times the big blind. An overwhelming percentage of the time people make big opening raises. They'll either have exactly pocket jacks or ace king because they're afraid to play those, don't know what to do with them, and think to themselves, it's better to win a small pot than it is to lose a big one. A $50 sizing is one typically made out of fear. You know what you don't really have to be fearful with? Aces and kings. People tend to raise the normal amounts with those hands because they want action. Since I've ruled out the 2 best hands from my opponent's range, I feel comfortable 3-betting. I re-raise to 200. After only a few seconds, the opponent 4-bet jams for 1,000 effective. I still put him on the same type of holdings, but figure it's more likely that I'm up against ace-king than pocket jacks now. Queens is still a slight favorite against 2 overs. I said that I wanted to recoup the 300 that I lost at Bellagio. We get an opportunity for that and plenty more as I make the call. We're heads up in a $2,000 pot, a few minutes into our second session of the night. Let's see a queen on the flop one time. The dealer puts out king, king 8. Not good for us if we're up against ace king. We're drawing close to dead. At least it seems that way. The turn is the 6 of hearts. No help to us other than the fact that 6s look like Qs, and that's a decent consolation. The river is the 5 of clubs. I'm not feeling great about our hand. Hold on to your horses though, dudes. We haven't seen what the other player has yet. This is a late night session. When people are tired and drunk, opponents can have all kinds of hands. Except in this case, the opponent has pocket aces for the win. I really almost never see anyone open to 50 with aces. It works out extremely well for him that I had pocket queens. He essentially turned it into a 10-20 game without sizing. When that's the case, I have the equivalent of 50 big blinds and happy to get it in for that amount with high pocket pairs. Here, I get wrecked and have to immediately rebuy.
Can you call over another 1,000 for me, please?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
8 minutes later, we've got ace-10 offsuit in the big blind again. The under-the-gun player put the straddle on for 10. He's a viewer named Kyler from Idaho. 4 players limp in. I call for 5 more. Kyler raises to 70. He started the hand with 570 total. It folds back to me. It's a bit suspicious that Kyler's woken up with a monster after straddling. I've kind of under-repped our hand to some extent. I don't want to call for 60 more with ace-10 offsuit, but I just don't believe that we're beat. After all, we've got removal to aces and ace-king type of hands. If I jam, my story will make no sense, so I 100% have to trust my instincts that we've got the best hand. Otherwise, if we make a move and run into anything better, we're going to get snap called. The thing that you have to remember is that this is a late night game. When people are tired and drunk, opponents can have all kinds of hands. I'm going for it. There's no snap call. It looks like we faded premium holdings, but we don't fade suspicion. Yes, it is weird, Kyler. I just hated every option. I don't like the idea of calling and playing a big pot out of position with a small stack to pot ratio. I don't like folding, and I don't even really like jamming. I just went with the option that seemed like the most fun. It appears that I chose a good time to rip it. Kyler has just one question for us.
You get mad if I stack with double cards?
No. Right. Seems fair. What do we got here?
Oh, we got crap.
Nice.
I need hearts. Lots of
Hearts? Okay.
With Kyler saying that he has crap, I'd like to see some high cards with no hearts. The dealer puts out King 7-4 Rainbow. Not my favorite flop to see because we don't improve and that at least somewhat connects with bad cards. The turn is the 6 of diamonds connecting with even more garbage. This isn't ideal. We're about to be stuck nearly 2,000 on the night. The river is another 7. It's tough to make a pair and hard to imagine the ace-10 is good. Still, we haven't seen what Kyler has.
Anything?
Nope.
All right.
Ace high. Oh, we don't even get to chop it.
The opponent has ace-9 of hearts. We have his nothing, beat by 1. I make the greatest limp 3-bet shove in the history of poker.
Nice.
Ah. Nice move.
Thanks, man.
I was beginning to think that today may be the day that my recent run good comes to an end. With this victory, I'm not ready to fully subscribe to that thought. You should fully subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't yet though. I'm trying to get to 8 billion subscribers by the end of the month, and I can't do that without your help. We're only down about 300 for this session when we pick up ace-king offsuit in middle position. I do something not standard for this particular game, which is to raise to a standard size. I make it 15. Kyler's out for vengeance. He 3-bets to 50 from the hijack. There are times when that's a good play, and then there's right now when we probably have Kyler crushed. The small blind cold calls with a short stack of 425. I'm not sure what he has, but he probably thinks that I'm a maniac because he saw me get it all in twice the first 10 minutes that I sat down, once with ace-10 offsuit. Kyler called that shove with worse. He's definitely a maniac. I 4-bet to 175. I'm happy to get it in. Kyler just calls for 125 more. The small blind has had enough of our shenanigans. He back 5-bet shoves for 425 total. You don't see that happen very often. I want to isolate the smaller stack or perhaps get into a 3-way all-in. I 6-bet jam for 800 effective. Kyler apparently doesn't have anything that strong even though he 3-bet me and then called my 4-bet. He folds for 625 more. It's down to heads up between me and the small blind. I'd really like to at least make a pair this time. The flop doesn't help us. It's 10-7-6 with 2 clubs. We at least have some backdoor draws. The turn is the king of diamonds giving us top. Despite the opponent not knowing what we have, he says that we're good. The river is another 6. I show immediately to spare the small blind from having to turn over his cards. It's indeed the winner. We may have been good the whole way if the small blind had something like ace queen or ace jack suited. We stack another opponent and win a large pot. Not only do we get completely unstuck for the session at Aria, we beat a mystery hand to just about get unstuck for the entire night as our stack increases to 2300. I'm actually less curious about what the small blind had than what the hijack had.
Kyler, what'd you have there?
My favorite hand.
What's that? Jack 10 suited?
Oh, ace 6 offsuit.
Ace 6 offsuit.
Yeah.
Ordinarily, I'm not sure I'd believe Kyler called my 4-bet with ace 6 offsuit, but he shows that he has ace 6 tattooed on his arm with some kind of evil Beanie Baby type figure, making a full house with it.
It's gotta be offsuit though, you know, otherwise it's
Sure,
too good.
sure. Nice.
Here we pick up pocket 4s on the button, under the gun limps in for 5. Under the gun +1 calls, I call, the small blind calls, the big blind checks, we're going 5 ways to the flop, it's queen jack 4 with 2 clubs, we've got bottom set on a coordinated board with multiple opponents. The first 3 players check, under the gun +1 bets 20. There's too much going on with this board for me to flat with several opponents behind me. I raise to 65. The small blind, big blind, and under the gun all fold. Under the gun +1 isn't so quick to let go. He calls for 45 more. Maybe he has a queen or a flush draw. We're heads up. I'm rooting for a blank. The turn is the 6 of spades. That's a good one. The opponent checks. I want to try and get his whole stack, but I have no idea how much he's playing since his hands are blocking his chips from my view. This is when things really get interesting.
Mind lifting up your hands, please? Can't see how many chips you have.
As the opponent lifts up his hands to about eye level, he holds on to his cards the entire time and briefly exposes what I see as a red face card. I don't see exactly what it is, but I feel really weird about the situation. I'm conflicted as to whether or not I should say something. I know that the opponent is likely drawing dead since he either has a queen or a jack, probably not both because he might have re-raised on the flop with top 2 pair on a draw heavy board. He could also have something like king 10, but he'll never have a flush draw. I have a huge hand and don't want to waste it by letting the opponent know that I have at least some clue as to the strength of what he's got. If another club comes out, for instance, I can still value bet because I don't have to be worried about under the gun +1 having a flush. That's not how I want to be winning extra money, but at the same time, I did nothing wrong in this situation, and poker is a game about making the fewest mistakes. Him bringing his cards between 1.5 to 2 feet off the table so that they're visible for everyone to see is a pretty big mistake. I bet 75 to ensure that I can get called from a queen, jack, or king 10. I didn't have to bet too much to protect against clubs. I strongly would have preferred him not to give me any information though. I feel very odd as the opponent calls. The river is the jack of spades giving us a full house. He'll either have top pair, trip jacks, or miss straight draw. There's some tiny chance that he has a better full house, but I almost completely ruled that out earlier. He checks and has 300 in his stack. I consider jamming, that's a little too greedy, and sometimes opponents are intimidated by the words all in. Instead, I bet 250, somewhat hoping for a fold. The opponent immediately calls, I turn over the full house, the player looks at his cards, part of me wants him to somehow have a better full house. He doesn't. He shows that he has jack 5 offsuit for trips. I'm not sure why he limped in with that hand, and I have no idea why he called my raise on the flop, but I don't feel good about the situation. If I hadn't seen a card flash on the turn, I certainly would have bet larger than 75 to protect against flush draws, and maybe he would have folded at that point, rather than call and drill the worst river card in the deck for him. He can't fold to a large sizing once he makes trips. I don't really know what to do. My stack is up to 2,700. I'm winning a few hundred on the night. I just don't feel right about it.
Are you okay with being on the vlog? I have a YouTube channel. What's your name? Adam, I'm gonna give you that last bet back, dude. There you go. When you lifted up your hands, when I asked you to, I saw one of your cards. I didn't see exactly what it was, but I saw it was like a red face card. And it made me feel weird, so I just feel like you should have that back. Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Good.
Now that my conscience is cleared, we pick up ace-king offsuit on the button. 3 players limp in, they need to be punished. I raise to 35. No one folds after midnight, the small blind, under the gun +1, and middle position player all call. We're going 5 ways to the flop in position. It comes jack 8-7 rainbow. We've got nothing. We all check to see a free turn. The ace of spades comes out giving us top. It checks to us. Our hand is pretty capped at 1 pair, although I might have played ace 8 or ace 7 the same way. I bet 50. Kyler isn't having it. He puts in the check raise at 200. It folds back to us. If this were a check raise from a different opponent at a different time of day, at a different casino, maybe I'd fold. We're here at Aria, it's 3 a.m., and Kyler is check raising me though. I'm never folding. I call for 150 more. The river is the 10 of diamonds, putting 4 to the straight out there. Small blind checks. I'm not going to value bet, and there's no reason to turn a hand with value into a bluff. I check back. Kyler shows that he finally got us with Jack 8 suited. He flopped top 2 pair.
Good job, Kyler.
I got one.
Nice job.
The rebate.
We try to do what we think is the right thing by giving Adam 250 back. Then we get punished by Jack 8 suited, and we turn top. There's clearly no such thing as karma at the poker table. I'm back to even on the night. Just a few hands later, we've got pocket sixes in the big blind. Kyler raises to 15 from under the gun. Adam calls in the cutoff. The button calls. He's a viewer named Alex from Tennessee. He's a 22-year-old who took his first flight ever to come to Las Vegas. I call for 10 more. We're going 4 ways to the flop. It's Queen 7-6 rainbow. We flop bottom set once more on a queen high board. I check to set the trap. Maybe I can get some money from Kyler. He bets 50. It's his last hand of the night. He beat me once. Now he's preparing to bounce with some chips already in the rack. Adam calls. He might be in for a world of hurt again. The button folds. I'm not slow playing against guys who call me light. I check raise to 225. If I can get even one caller, I'll be happy. Kyler folds. Adam is more hesitant to do so, even though the last time I raised the flop when he was in a hand, I also had bottom set. Adam doesn't learn his lesson. He calls for 175 more. The turn is the 4 of clubs, putting 2 clubs on board. 8-5 makes a straight. I don't see how Adam has that. He did have Jack 5 offsuit in the other hand though, so maybe I shouldn't rule that out. It looks like the opponent has around 650 in his stack. It's about a pot-sized bet. I may as well go for it. It turns out Adam actually has 800. There's a stack of chips that he has behind a water bottle that I didn't see when I jammed. Adam's in disbelief. That's exactly what I've got. I didn't give you back 250 so I could bluff you later. Clearly I'm a pretty honest guy. That doesn't seem to stop Adam from being a non-believer. He's in the tank for a long time. This is a big decision, so I understand. After a minute and a half, the opponent calls. It's another big all-in. The cutoff is probably drawing slim at best. The river is the king of spades, pretty much a blank from our perspective since there's no chance that we're up against pocket kings. I turn over the set. Adam never shows what he called us with. You can see the bottle of Fiji there, and what's behind it is the stack of red chips that I said I didn't know he had until now when it gets slid our direction. Not only do we get the 250 back, we get a lot more on top of it. It would have been cool to see Adam run up a big stack because he seems like a good guy. We're fortunate to have flopped a set against him twice. Maybe karma exists in poker after all. I'm even more convinced once we find out what Kyler folded on the flop after I check raised.
Red.
Yep.
My last hand.
5-8?
Yeah,
Wow.
it was my last hand, so. Nice
Yeah,
play.
thanks, man.
Where's the button though?
Oh shit.
Take care, guys.
Hey, good luck, brother.
See you, Kyler. Good play with you, man. Yeah.
We're up 1,400 at Aria, 1,100 total on the night. It's going great. One thing I realized that I've never told you guys throughout all the years on the vlog is that I like apples. I mean, I really like apples. I also like bananas, but what I love even more than those are big pairs. We pick up pocket aces on the button. It's hard for anything to be better than this. My friend Jeff is in the game. He raises to 15 in the cutoff. He's about to get torched. I 3-bet to 50. Alex from Tennessee has now moved to Kyler's old spot on my left. He cold calls from the small blind. The guy who stacked me earlier when I had queens also cold calls. What kind of game are we in here? The cutoff calls. We're playing a 3-bet pot, 4 ways in position. The flop comes king 9 deuce with 2 spades. It's a very safe flop for us, aside from the fact that we may have to worry about an opponent having a set of 9s. No one should have a set of kings, otherwise they would have 4-bet pre-flop. The small blind checks. The big blind bets 100, even though he's the pre-flop aggressor, and it's a good flop for me as the 3-better since I can have kings, aces, and ace-king. The cutoff folds. I'm not sure what to make of this $100 bet. I call to see what the big blind will do on the turn. The small blind also calls. It's down to 3 of us in a big pot. The turn is the 5 of diamonds. It's a blank. The small blind checks. The big blind is a little hesitant. He bets 100 again. I realize that he's trying to get to the river cheaply. When you determine what your opponent is attempting to accomplish, disappoint him. I raised to 275. I would have made it more, but I'm a bit concerned that the small blind has a set of 9s. The small blind folds. No longer have to worry about him. I'm also not worried about the big blind having a flush draw because we have the ace of spades. I can't imagine the big blind cold calling a 3-bet with 2 spades that don't contain the ace of spades. The big blind calls. He must have a king, likely ace king. The river is the 4 of hearts, it's another brick. The big blind loves betting into me. He makes it 200 as a clear blocker bet. One thing that I didn't mention is that he's the only player at the table who had me covered to start the hand. We both have enormous stacks, adding another element to this hand that's interesting. Like I said earlier, I put him on ace king. I raised to 800 thinking that I'll probably find a call for 600 more without holding. If he somehow has kings and rips it on me, and I get stacked for piles after already making a big comeback, I'll be very disappointed. The big blind folds what he says is a king. It makes sense that that's what he had. We win a big pot. I show him that he made a good laydown against us. There have been some really bizarre hands tonight that have put me in situations that I've almost never been in before. It's working out well at least. With this win, we're up over $2,000. It's not over either. We get pocket queens under the gun +1. My friend Jeff raises to 15 from under the gun. He's going to have a narrow range. I don't 3-bet this time. I call. The small blind has been pretty quiet. 3-bets at 70. The under the gun player folds. My hand is under-repped. I call for 55 more. We're heads up in position. The flop comes Jack 9-5 with 2 diamonds. We have an overpair with some backdoor draws. The small blind slows down and checks. I get the sense that he has ace king. He doesn't appear to like the flop. I bet 80. It doesn't take the small blind too long to make his decision. He calls. I'm a bit concerned. The turn is the 10 of clubs. We pick up an open-ended straight draw. The opponent checks. I need to ensure that we get to the river. I don't want to bet, then get raised by a set. I also don't know if maybe the opponent has aces or kings. He's playing it cautiously. I check back in case I'm behind. The river is another 9. It's still a relatively safe card if we were ahead on the turn. The small blind bets 200. It feels like I'm beat, I'm just not sure how. I checked back turn for pot control so that I could call a river bet. It's still possible that the opponent is bluffing with ace king after I showed weakness on the previous street. I call. The small blind shows that he turned a set of 10s on us. It's an unfortunate run out that causes us to lose a few hundred. The small blind gets me good and takes me to Value Town on the river. It's 5 a.m. when we pick up ace king offsuit in the big blind. Everyone is straddling at the moment. The player in middle position limps in for 10. The cutoff is a new player at the table. He's come from a broken game and has had quite a few drinks. The cutoff raises to 35. I don't mind playing a big pot against him. I 3-bet to 120. In a strange sequence of events, the middle position limper calls for 110 more. The cutoff then starts mumbling before he decides what to do.
You got a stack going over here. You've been working these dudes, huh? Do you have a patch on your shoulder? This guy has a WP. Who are you? You look like Brad Owen, kind of. Are you Brad Owen? Oh no, shit. What's the bet? I'm sorry.
120. Total 120.
Fucking Brad Owen.
The cutoff folds. It's heads up with the guy who limp called the 3-bet. The flop comes ace 6-5 with 2 hearts. We've got top on a safe board. The only hand that I'm worried about is something like ace x of hearts. I bet 135 for value. I don't want to chase off the opponent if he has a worse ace or something like pocket 9s. Middle position player calls. We don't want to see a heart. The turn is the 5 of clubs. That's one of the best cards in the deck because it makes it less likely that the opponent flopped a set or 2 pair, and we should be able to get even more value out of something like ace 10. I announce a bet of 225. The opponent folds before I can get my chips out there. He certainly didn't have an ace. We win another fairly large pot to get some momentum back after the pocket queen's loss. At 5:30 in the morning, we've got king 10 offsuit in the under the gun straddle. The drunk dude raises to 35 from the small blind. We're certainly going to be playing this one from in position. I call for 25 more. It's heads up. The flop comes 10-7-3 rainbow. We've got top pair with a good kicker. The small blind makes almost a pot-sized bet of 70. If he's bluffing, we want him to stick around. If he has us beat, we don't want to make the pot bigger. I call. The turn is the 6 of hearts. A few straights get there. It's a decent card for us overall though. The small blind may be concerned that we have a big hand. He bets 125. It's a bet for a much smaller percentage of the pot this time. I call once more. The river is the king of hearts, giving us top 2 pair with lots of money in the middle. The opponent checks. There are plenty of hands that beat us like straights, sets, and now flushes, but I'm confident the top 2 is going to be the winner once the small blind checks. He's afraid that he's beat after I've called twice already. Maybe he has ace 10 and doesn't like the king. Maybe we've been ahead the whole time. I go with a big sizing of 450. This could backfire if the small blind checks as a trap with a monster. I don't get the sense that that's the case, or perhaps he's just the best drunk actor I've ever seen as his face is grimacing in agony while he's trying to figure out what we've got. A very long time passes for the opponent to piece it together. My face is starting to grimace in agony. The opponent is really in the blender with this one. It's as if I asked him to spell the word pharaoh and told him that his life depended on it. 2 seasons of Stranger Things has come out since I originally made the bet, but the small blind eventually calls after 3.5 minutes of tanking. We show him 2 pair, he's not happy and throws his cards into the muck. We completely wreck his world with the big bet on the river. We were down 1,300 at the low point after the Queens versus Aces hand. That was a long time ago. Winning this pot gets our stack over the 5,000 mark. I played as long as I can. The sun is coming out. It's time to go home. Great night altogether, just finished the session, went on a huge tear, was in a weird situation when I had that 4s full of jacks hand. Just felt uncomfortable when I was thinking about winning that pot from him, so I gave him that bet back and then ended up sacking him after that, and then just ran really, really well the whole night, and the game was great. That's a good thing about playing late. It's now very early in the morning. I think it's like 6 a.m. I played a little over an hour at Bellagio and then a little under 5 hours here at Aria. Lost $310 at Bellagio and I won $29.60 here at Aria. And just so many cool, interesting hands. That was a very, very fun session to play, and it went well. So I'm just running super good right now in cash games and really enjoying poker. So first session back playing in Las Vegas since my dad passed, and I'm glad that it was a good one. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe buttons because it helps out the channel a ton. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'm happy to get back to you. This was just a wild session, and a lot of the times people ask me why I played late at night, and I think this video is a good example of that. People are playing tired, they're playing after a lot of drinks, they're chasing their losses from earlier in the day, and usually those 3 factors lead to pretty good games at the end of the night and early in the morning. So my hourly tends to be a lot higher during those times, and you know, sometimes you can just get wrecked as well. Fortunately, I ended up winning in this session, and I've just been running super good the last like several months. So the first month or 2 of the year didn't really go too well for me, but I'm more than making up for it, and yeah, I'm hoping I can keep that going for as long as possible. Be sure to check out all the links down below in the description box and all the information regarding the WPT in Tampa, the cruise, and ClubWPT promotions, and then also information about the Fall Mayhem at the Lodge. I'll be at the Lodge September 5th through the 13th. So hopefully I'll see you out there, and hopefully I'll see you for the meetup game September 6th. All right, guys, stay safe, good luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time.